And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, Arkheim. Arkheim is someone who believes to be part of the secret space program. He reached out to me, get something scheduled for the show. Thought it'd be good to talk to someone, again, that dives into some of those topics. I've always been a little hesitant since I started doing this show when it comes to that type of topic, just because I'm not really familiar with it and I kind of struggle understanding it. I don't believe it's fair for me to not allow anyone to come on that wants to share their experiences. So we're going to take a dive back down into the secret space program with Arkheim. But before we bring him on, if you've ever had an experience or a story you'd like to share and you'd like to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales, there's a couple things you can do. You can either go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section, or you can send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, look for Brandon Tinfoil Tales. Whatever option you choose will work, so just make sure to reach out to me and we'll get something scheduled for a future episode. My calendar gets pretty full, so there could be a waiting period before we can get a chance to get you on there, but we will definitely make sure to get you scheduled and we will get on there at some point to talk with you. If you'd like to help the podcast out, please continue to share it around. Word of mouth is one of the best ways to help the podcast out. For anyone out there that's been doing that, just know I appreciate it. You can also help out by leaving a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to podcast at. That helps with the ranking, so it makes the podcast more discoverable. If you'd like to become a member of the Patreon, there's 2 different tiers. There is the free tier and the paid tier. With the paid tier, you get access to everything on there, ad-free, early access to all of the episodes right after they're recorded, and I get them put together. They're up on the Patreon over 2 months in advance. There's also Crinkle Conspiracies, the exclusive podcast that is available only on the Patreon. That is available for both free and paid tiers. It's only $1.99 a month, so if you'd like to help out Tinfoil Tales and like to get some episodes early, make sure to check out the Patreon. For more information about that, you can check out the show notes. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias. Again, look for Brandon Tinfoil Tales on Facebook. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I think now we're going to go ahead and bring Arkheim on. Looking forward to talking with him, see where the conversation goes, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest tonight, Arkheim. Thanks for coming on here and talking to me.
Thanks for having me.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Arkheim Ra. I know this might make some people cringe depending on who you are, but I am a starseed, meaning that my soul is old. Some people's souls are newer. My soul's ancient. And because of this, I got targeted by the Talented and Gifted program in elementary school, which basically took me out of class and did testing on me and gave me implanted like artificial memories of doing like normal stuff while they were like running tests on me. It all started with these getting called down to the office, and these guys, they're like with the school psychologist, but they're like psychologists from the state, which I guess was somehow connected to the Talented and Gifted. It was a long time ago, but I remember like the Talented and Gifted came right after this. And they asked me all these weird questions. Like they had like a pamphlet, and like a questionnaire pamphlet, and I filled it out. And some of the questions were fairly normal and innocuous, but other ones were like, do you have star family? Are you ever brought aboard spaceships? Can you read other people's minds? Are you able to communicate with the dead? And then it got even crazier where it asked me questions like the year's 2032 or something. I can't remember the exact number, but far off number in the future. And the police are now using telepaths to be able to stop crimes before they happen, and you have telepathic abilities. Do you think it would be like ethically right to help the police find terrorists and like prevent terrorist attacks before they happen by like walking around and like reading people's minds? Weird questions like that. And I always just like remembered that and thought it was weird, but I didn't know the extent of what happened to me. Like I figured like, okay, I got pulled out of class asking these weird questions. That was odd. I mean, I remember when I first got social media, that was like the first thing I posted to social media was like a question, like basic saying, I remember getting asked weird questions about like like telepaths and all this weird stuff, and like with a questionnaire and like by these like weird people that came from the state. Like asked about it on Facebook when I first got it, like like 12 years ago or whatever it was, and nobody really said anything other than like, oh wow, that sounds interesting. But I have found other people that this happened to actually in the hometown that I grew up in. I found a few people that actually have been in this program too. They don't talk about it publicly like I do, but yeah. So I got asked this questionnaire, and from what I remembered for the longest time in my life was like I just got put in the talented and gifted program. I remember being excited about it. They're like, because they gave me like an IQ test. But it's like, oh yeah, you're like talented and gifted or whatever, which it makes you feel special as a kid, like oh, I got chosen for this elite thing or whatever. So I remember like I had to bring paperwork home to my mom for her to sign it, and it was like an exciting thing. But then I remember like the next year, like when I went to, I think it was third grade, and I asked, what was going on with talented and gifted? Why was I not in it anymore? Because I wasn't in it anymore. The teacher was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't your teacher last year, and I can't really tell you. Sorry. But then these other kids that were in the talented and gifted, like I remembered them being in it. They're like, we were in talented and gifted, and you were not. Like, we were there, dude. Like, we were part of the talented and gifted program. You were not part of the talented. Why are you asking the teacher about this? You're crazy. And I thought they were bullying me for my whole life, basically, until I really looked into it, because that's the only explanation I had for this weird thing that happened to me when I was a kid, where like they're telling me I'm not in, whatever, man. I remembered it. It wasn't until later on, and this is how it works with a lot of this, like MK Ultra stuff, is we are put into a position where we do not have the context to understand the things that are happening to us, and that's kind of like their failsafe. And since I didn't understand what was like, I didn't have the concept like, oh, they could just like replace my memories with like different ones, like fake ones on top of my real ones. Yeah, they can do that, people. And they did that to me. And, I had physical symptoms, headaches, to be really, I guess, kind of a upfront. Rectal tearing was a thing that they found, my doctor found, and no explanation for it, but that's part of the programs and stuff as well. But yeah, I basically I remember what happened because I kind of looked into it. I thought about it. You know what I mean? I looked into these memories later on in my life because I had, long story short, I had another weird experience where I had like missing time and stuff. I'm like, okay, it's time to look into this. So I kind of like meditated on it. And I literally laid in my bed and meditated, and I looked back and I realized like, oh yeah, the talented and gifted in those kids. And like I knew I had done enough research at this point that I understood, like I had the context to understand like screen memories, covering up memories with other memories that are fake. Like there's the real common one that ufologists will talk about is seeing an owl, but you're not actually seeing an owl. You saw like a gray alien, but you remember it as an owl for some reason, and they just like are able to just replace your memory.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real common one. But like, yeah, that they replaced my memory with just like innocuous memories of like, I remember one, like it was a long time ago, so I don't remember all of it, but I remember one of the days I remember watching Bill Nye the Science Guy. I don't know if I actually did or what, but I remember sitting down and we watched an episode, and then we took like a quiz at the end. And then I remember we went to a museum of some sort, which was so long ago, and I guess it's a fake memory too. I don't remember what museum we went to. I just remember feeling really weird when I got back from the school and dazed, and but you don't have the context and you're a little kid, so you're not like, oh, something weird happened. You just kind of just go on with your day. But that's kind of like the beginning of my story is and when I got the memories back, when I really looked into them, which I do remember some of what happened to me. It's not all like crystal clear, but I do remember some of it. I remember that I was strapped onto a table. I had electrodes hooked up to me, and they had a TV in the room, and this guy, he wore a brown suit and he would smoke cigarettes, and I remember that, and he was all sweaty and he would scream at me, and he told me that I needed to say, and I was on drugs, I'm pretty sure too. I'm pretty sure they put me on an IV of drugs and stuff. And he told me that I had to say the colors on the TV. Like he said, I'd hear a beep and the color on the TV would change and I'd have to say the color. And I'm like, guy, I can't, it's not, I didn't say guy, but I was a little kid, but I was like, I told him, I was like, I can't see the TV. How am I supposed to say the fucking color? Like, that's not fair. And he's like, I remember this. Like, it kind of gives me goosebumps. He said to me in these exact words, I know what you are, you fucking monster. You're going to tell me the colors that come on the screen. And then he put out a cigarette on me. Like, he would put out his cigarettes on me, which I'm not sure how I didn't go home with like cigarette burns and shit. But I remember he would do that to me. And like, they have all this weird, crazy advanced technology. It's not that wild to think they'd be able to cover that up somehow. But like, yeah, I remember he'd put cigarettes out on me. He was real mean to me. And who knows how long I was gone. Because once I get later onto this, I'll get into the time travel part and the fact that they can like take you for like a real long time, but you're only gone for like 5 minutes. So who knows how much shit they did to me in this span of time. But yeah, I remember like the color would change and it would beep. And I'd like guess the wrong color at first because I couldn't see it. And then I just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it other than like your fight or flight activated and like paired with the drugs. And like, I don't know, dude, I could see, it got to the point where I was like able to see the TV screen. And I was like purple, boop, and it would go beep, orange, beep. And it went faster and faster and faster and then it stopped. And then they're like, okay, we're cooking with gas now kind of thing. Like they got them excited that I could do that. And they just kind of just kept pushing it further. And they do this to a lot of people. That's the thing about my story that I want people to understand. It's like there's billions of people on the planet, so this isn't that crazy of a number, but I know it's at least hundreds of thousands of people are in these programs that are currently on the earth right now, at least. And that's being like really conservative, like super duper fucking conservative. Hundreds of thousands of people are in these programs having this stuff happen to them. There's probably still kids getting taken like next year, a new school year will start at Johnson Elementary. I'm sure they're doing this to kids still to this day. And as Al Bielek of the Montauk Project testified to, they were doing this stuff all over the country. And that I guess like, I'll kind of get to your question and just see if you have any questions. But I guess the next phase of this that I could get into is like the time travel aspect of it, like why they were taking me, what they were making me do, and Project Phoenix 2, which people know as the Montauk Project, which is based on Stranger Things was going to be called the Montauk Project, and it was based loosely, very loosely, because I was there and I know that like the reality is way more grim than the show shows, but like basically the Montauk Project was a time travel project where they're doing time warfare, opening wormholes into other realities to make deals with them and just do all sorts of crazy stuff. And but going backwards in time, forward in time, and basically just altering reality for this just cabal group that's existed for thousands of years of these like, I don't know how to say it other than like they're Satanists. I know like we're just kind of getting to the weeds of all this conspiracy shit, which some people might be like, okay, this guy's totally off his rocker. That's fine. This might not be for you, but I'm telling the truth. Like these people exist. Like satanic panic is 100% a real thing. Like, they got people freaking out over action figures and Pokemon cards and like, rock records and stuff. And meanwhile, like the real deal thing is actually really damaging and really fucked up. And it's like a large scale criminal organization. People might know like Michael Aquino. He was in the military. He was a general, and he got busted in this like child sex trafficking thing in Omaha, Nebraska, connected to the Franklin Credit Union there, I think it was. And he basically got let off the hook because I guess like the judge was also a Satanist. And that's kind of they all are in positions of power, but that's where this all kind of starts and ends in a lot of ways, is like Satanism, which is actually tied to like reptilians, shape-shifting reptilians, and all sorts of wild shit. I really don't even know how to sum it all up. Like, it's so much. Like, you really have to go into deep lore to kind of get like versed in it all. Like, it could take hours to explain the whole thing. But that's kind of the start of like a summing up the beginning of my story, or how I kind of got here, if that makes any sense. So I don't know if you have any questions, or if you wanted to like steer it to like the next part of the show.
Well, I'm gonna hold you up here for a second. There's a few things that I'm gonna touch base on that kind of correlate to what you've talked about. When I first started my show, I interviewed a couple different people that said they were part of the Secret Space program, and also one that said he was part of the Montauk Project. I'm actually doing recap shows, and I'm going to actually start out doing by releasing the one that I interviewed with John Whitmore.
Okay.
He talked about being in the Secret Space program. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff at first.
Yeah, I actually served with John Whitberg, and he's my half brother in all reality, and for all intents and purposes. Not on paper, but he's my half brother, because we're in these programs, and basically like we're manufactured by time corporations.
Well,
But yeah,
this is where it's going to take a bizarre turn for me. And now that you have that connection, I also interviewed someone else that claimed that they were a part of it and they knew John everything. I started getting a lot of people reaching out telling me that you guys were all full of shit, which I thought was strange that I never hear from people really, but I started getting emails trying to disprove you guys from people that said they
sure.
were saying that they were a part of the program and you guys weren't in the program.
Okay.
So there's like a lot of weird little things that were happening. And one of the guys that I interviewed was named Rocco. I got
Oh, well,
so I got so much hate about Rocco, claiming he was not a part of Montauk. He's stealing all that information.
okay.
And
I'll explain that to you, not to interrupt you, but Rocco was at Montauk, but he's kind of mentally unstable. And I don't want to like talk shit about the guy. Like I wish him like the best of luck, and I want him to do well in life and succeed. And these programs fuck people up really bad, but that's the gist of it. He's done some things that like threatened people and stuff like that in this community and made people unsafe, including like, an old, like old lady, Penny Bradley, who a lot of people know him in this community. He threatened her and stuff. And so I kind of I'm not close to him. I don't talk to him, but he is real. He's the first person that I started talking to when I came forward. And people want to say he's not real. People don't. Here's what it is with Rocco. People don't like him to the extent that they just don't want to believe he was there. I've heard people say, "Oh, yeah, someone that looked like him was there, but it was his father. His father looks just like him." Like that's literally literally one of the explanations I've heard people use, because they just don't want to accept a guy that's like off their rocker like that, that's so rude and threatens people and stuff. Not that I'm saying he's like that now. Maybe he's doing way better. I don't like to disparage people publicly, especially last time I heard he was like healing and like doing a lot better. So I don't want to disparage him, but he scared a lot of people. That's reality. That happened. And I want people to understand that while people might expect us to be like these perfect, extremely well-mannered, eloquent individuals, like a very common like if you wanted to have a stereotype sort of what an MK Ultra mind control victim that's being used by time corporations and stuff like that might look like, it might be somebody who's like nodding off on a street corner. Like, see, I'm not kidding. Like, people are mentally ill and homeless and stuff like that. They make the perfect people to be in these programs, because people literally look past them on purpose. People literally don't treat them like people and do their best to not pay attention to what's happening to them, and they don't care about their well-being. People who live on the streets, so they're oftentimes, and that part of oftentimes it's like a loop, because the whole reason they're on the streets is because they're too mentally ill to hold down a job or whatever, because of the shit that's happened to them. And what I'm talking about here with these time corps and people being a part of them, it's way more common than people think. Like I keep on saying it, hundreds of thousands of people are part of this. And some people that you talk to every day that are normal people that would never, ever in a million years come on a podcast and say, yeah, I'm in time corporation programs and stuff. They are. Like I have a friend that I've been friends with for like 8 years. When I came public about this stuff, I would start talking about it around him, and he'd just casually be like, he knew. He'd like finish my sentences for me. He's in it too. Like, so there's people that are in this stuff that they're not. The normal thing is to either bury it, and even if you do know, you kind of just don't think about it. And even if you do think about it, the last thing you're gonna do is go around and talk to people about it, because it just makes you look crazy. And also there's the mentality that like what's it gonna do about anything. But yeah, back to the whole people saying so and so's fake and so is real. It's a really frustrating thing that happens in this community, and I don't know what I can do about it other than I can say, like, look, like obviously let's use common sense here. Let's use logic. Let's use Occam's razor, as it were. If this is real, and if there really are secret space programs with all these different fucking people and then being used for all this stuff, and a great number of them are alive in the here and now, in the year 2024, like, who's to say that like one person saying, oh, this person's fake, like da 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 da, like who's like to say they're right or wrong? Like that's where it gets muddy. Now, how you can cut through that and cut through the bullshit is to just listen to as many people as you can. If you're interested in this and it resonates with you and you understand it is true, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, what's fake, what's real, like this is confusing. A lot of us talk about the same stuff. Some of us don't even know each other. Like, John Lipperk and I were both talking about this before we actually talked to, and connected. And same thing with a lot of other people that I talked to now. Like we were talking about the same stuff before we ever even got acquainted with each other. And then we can all validate each other and validate, like, I could say a lot of people, Drago Reed, Joseph Powell, John Lipperk, Penny Bradley, Christy Campbell, James Rink. I can go on and on of people who we all tell the same story. It's not a different story. Alondra Markman. We're all telling the same story. The same fucking thing happened to us.
That's where the people try and discredit everyone, though, is because you guys have the same experiences. So everyone says you guys are just ripping each other off. Like I said, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's what people try and come on here and discredit you guys for, saying that you all have the same exact things and you all get this little community going, and then there's infight. There is infighting in every community. It doesn't matter if it's this community. It doesn't matter if it's a cryptid community or a paranormal community. Everyone's always infighting with it. That's all I was trying to get to point across, is basically like your experiences, John's experiences, people trying to discredit. I've never had anyone else ever reach out to me as much as I did with people talking about the secret space program. And when that stuff came out, my channel pretty much got like, I don't want to say shadow banned, but it's kind of plummeted from where it was taken off pretty good. And once I started having this type of stuff on there, my channels kind of just got like pushed down on the tube.
It could be a combination of, it could be like censorship, but also maybe your audience didn't resonate with it. I don't know. It could be a little bit of both, or maybe one or the other. I'm not sure. But I've dealt with that, and I've seen that. I've seen there definitely. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Joe Rogan just talked about it on his podcast with one of his recent guests. Like they shut down people that don't share information they don't like. They're doing that. Like that's just happening, period. Like people can say it's not, but it is. They'll shut down people's YouTube channels just because they're like, don't like what they're saying. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that you got your views got throttled because of interviewing people like us, because
they've never recovered. Not on there at least, but like my podcast does good, like does well on podcasts. But as far as YouTube goes, it's pretty much not really non-existent.
Well, it's in the realm of all the paranormal stuff, but I can speak from experience where, like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe, I came across the secret space program stuff for the first time, and I looked into it. I was like, this is a little wacky for me. This is a little much. So when people are like, And I was in the programs, okay, mind you. I literally was at Montauk. So I can understand why people think that way, because we kind of have this frame of reference where it just seems ridiculous, like time travel and clones and this and that. But I guess also at the same time, you're saying the people that were really giving you flack were people who do believe in it, but they just believe in it in a certain way, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Basically, the stuff that I got from people wasn't trying to discredit the secret space program. They were trying to discredit mainly Rocco. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
so I don't know. And I've gotten messages here recently. I've been getting a lot of uptick from people within the community trying to reach out and get on an episode, which is fine. I kind of stepped away from it after a little bit because I had too many episodes I wanted to try and steer it towards a different direction. Now I'm kind of heading back that way because I want to try and keep everything open. But I got someone reaching out recently, and then someone else commented, and I started getting messages from people saying, "Don't interview this person because they're full of shit." I was like, they literally comment on a Facebook post. I'm getting messages from people not to trust that person because they're not true, but this person, I, that's where I get hung up on. I was like, why is there people within the community already trying to take out other people before I've even talked to them?
Yeah, so those people must suck. Because I can tell you one thing, okay? There's people I disagree with that I'm like, oh, like, don't there's people out there I don't resonate with what they're saying. Don't follow, subscribe to it. I think they're maybe even lying. I would go as far as to say that. But I'm not gonna go around and tell people not to interview them. There's a kind of a thing that people say is like use discernment. And that's kind of what people need to do is they need to be able to let people, if you have a platform like this, if you find someone interesting, interview them and let people use their own discernment. You always got to take it with a grain of salt. This is the realm of the paranormal, and the unfortunate truth of the realm of the paranormal of all these subjects is there's of course a great deal of truth. Like the world is amazing. Like there's incredible things happening around us all the time that are just outside of our, I mean, there's portals underneath buildings everywhere, all over the place and stuff. It's 100% real, that UFOs, all this stuff, it's real. But there's also a bunch of bullshit out there, a bunch of lies, a bunch of CGI videos next to all the real ones and stuff, right? And so all anyone can do if they do care about this information is just see where it all lines up, see where it collaborates. Because if you start looking, it's like, oh, this secret space program guy says this, and then this person who they don't have anything to do with that, but they're in the army, they said they saw this crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And then like you just start realizing like there is a big picture. Like that's what I've realized. Like I've been researching this enough, and my first book, which is about to come out, Time and Space Unlimited, it's kind of just an all-encompassing picture in my story. But the next book I want to make, I want to really line up the evidence because there is evidence. I mean, the really like hardcore, damning, unequivocal proof is like hard to find, but it's not like there isn't a lot of like really sus stuff where it's like, huh, what an interesting fact that this happened. And then, you know what I mean? Like certain things, they just line up in a way where it's way too suspicious to be a coincidence and stuff like that when you start looking into this stuff. And there are breadcrumbs to follow. Like, MK Ultra did actually happen. People sued the government and got money for their loved ones being victimized by MK Ultra. Montauk, Camp Hero is a real place. Good old Brian Minnick, he just came out with a book that has all the receipts of all the power that the base was using, all of the water the base was using, stuff like that. And it was enough for a small city. There's just, there is evidence. There's a lot of weird stuff that, and the people that live there, they would, in the region around Montauk, they would see weird things, weird stuff would happen around there. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think that people like, if you're really interested in this, like, you can't listen to someone saying, oh, this person's bullshit. But you can kind of be like, okay, well, I guess I'll take that into consideration now. And you just got to listen to people and give everybody a chance. And like, there's a common thread because reality, and that's called reality. The common thread if you're looking in the paranormal and you're trying to find the truth, it's a fascinating thing to look into, and it's worth your time. And all you have to do is listen to enough stuff, get enough information, and find the common thread. Find where the information lines up. Find the collaborative testimony. Like, there's people who say the same things about the same places. Like there's people who do not know each other who say the same things about lunar operations command on the moon, or they'll say the same things about Mars Defense Force and the Raptors on Mars and all that stuff. And they say we're copying each other, but I'm sorry, I just don't think that's true, because I know for a fact from like myself, like, and people could say I'm just saying this and I'm lying, but I know and I'm telling the truth. There's people who I said stuff maybe privately, publicly, it doesn't really matter. And then later on, I'm finding somebody else and they're saying the same stuff. And I didn't know that they're like it's just like when that happens to you, like as listeners or objective people who are just trying to figure this out, that's not really a smoking gun for them. But for me, when this stuff happens, where I'm like, wait a minute, so this person remembers the same, the walls were the same color, the military dude was the same, he looked the same, like, and yeah, his name was Craig or whatever the hell it was. Like, you remember the same, it freaks you out. Like when you talk to other people and you have recall and you remember it. And yeah, I just really, not to go in a circle and keep reiterating, but I just really think that people just need to realize that the common thread is reality, and collaborative testimony is how you find that common thread, is when people are saying the same things, talking about the same stuff. And also, there's breadcrumbs, there's evidence, there is a lot of weird stuff that lines up with people's testimonies. If you look into it, really, there is.
Are you familiar with Nathan Sesnick?
Yeah, I totally believe that guy's real. I don't know him extremely well or know his story, but like extremely well. There was a point where I like was gonna interview him, and I kind of can't remember. I think I was like moving at the time or whatever, but yeah, but I believe that his testimony is real. And I do know him, and I could say he's a friend, I guess I could say.
So I interviewed him last year, and I need to get back with him. We had some stuff we need to talk about, but like I said, I've kind of stepped away after that, took a little bit of a break, but I'm starting to kind of go back into that realm, just because I like to keep the show kind of open to all sorts of different type of things, and I don't want to straight up just focus on that. But I guess my question before we dive into some of the other stuff is, and I've asked this with the other guys and no one can really get it. For me, I remain skeptical on a lot of things in general. That's just how I do the show and how I do life in general. So as a skeptic's stance is the time control aspect. If you can control time, you can control the future, you control the past and everything else. What is the whole point of why they're taking people in general, making clones, and then having them do this and then bringing them back? If you have the ability to control time, it almost doesn't make sense of why you would have to do that. I know there's no definitive answer. No one has that answer, but I mean, that's just where I always come back to it out of why I get hung up on it.
I think I actually could. I mean, I think I could give you an answer to that, actually. So the thing that people kind of miss out on all this, I think people get distracted by the portals, the aliens, the technology, all these fanciful things that they're not familiar with. Like a caveman seeing fire or something, not to be rude, but they just get distracted by that, and that's all they see. And they don't understand, like, nah, man, you can take a person overnight and for 20 years use them for whatever, and you don't have to pay them. Do you understand that? You don't have to pay. No one's getting paid out there for this shit. Like, it's slavery. No one's getting paid, dude. You don't get a paycheck. Like, that's the whole fucking point. Like, and like, not enough people are talking about that. Like, I don't understand. That is square one of SSP testimony, Secret Space Program testimony. This is human slavery. And these military organizations that are doing this, I call them time corporations, because that's what they are. They're corporations. And all they do is they just want to make money. That's it. Just like any fucking corporation. They want money. They want control of resources, of land. They want power. And they do it through time travel. They just do stuff to inch themselves along and make themselves a bit more powerful. And it's a form of hacking reality. And with the breakaway colonies, what people call them, there's colonies out there. Planets like Mars, there's human beings on there, which is actually evidence that, we could be from there and not the other way around, and all sorts of stuff. It gets pretty wild, but there's all sorts of human colonies out there, okay? And one of the ways that this is going to sound completely insane to people, but I like using Occam's razor, right? Because people always say Occam's razor, this is wild, common sense tells me this doesn't exist. Well, Occam's razor, let's flip that around a bit. Let me like, you know, kind of turn that around on its head and be like, okay, well, let's say this technology does exist, right? Like there's portals, like you need the right resources. It's, you know, not like you can just do it with a flip of a switch, any old average Joe. But if you have the resources and the power, which is, you know, a lot of resources and power, you're able to open a portal to anywhere in time and space. Let's say, you know, it's hypothetically, let's say that power exists. Now, what do you think they're going to do with that? If some military organization or something like that comes across that technology, do you think that they're going to shut down all the airports and let everybody travel by portal and just like give it to the public and just let people have time travel? Like that would just be like the responsible thing to do? Of course not. What they would do is they would privatize it. They would figure out a way to take advantage of it. They would figure out a way to use it for military gain. They would figure out a way to use it to gain financial prowess. And they would use it basically, you know, bottom line is they would use it to control things and have power. And that is 100% what these military organizations that are doing this stuff, be it the Air Force or the Navy or what have you, they all work together in conjunction for various tasks and sometimes separately, depending on what's going on. But they're doing it for power. It's time corporations that are doing this. And yeah, you don't have to pay people. You can bring someone somewhere and make them do something and pay them in peanuts or next to nothing. And you know, that's how they colonize space. And you know, like for instance, the Legends of Valkyrie, which a person, if you're gonna interview super secret space program people, you know, you might want to take a break or whatever. But if you're gonna continue down that vein over the years or whatever, you should interview Penny Bradley. She testifies to the fact that when they talk about Valkyrie, the Legends of Valkyrie, and they would take the heads to Valhalla, or they would take them to Valhalla, right? That was the legend, to be able to still like fight in battle or whatever. Well, what that really was that was a time corporation. That was a ship, and they came down there and they chopped off their heads, okay? And they put their heads in regen, and they woke them up, and they're like, hey, you want to be a colonist on Mars or whatever planet it was? In this case, I think it was Mars that she was talking about. And I know this sounds fucking crazy, but it's like, this is how this technology would be used if it existed, guys. And it is how it's used. Like, think about it. Like, they need colonists. They need people to just like start from the very fucking ground up. And this is a person who just had their head chopped off by their enemies. You know what I mean? And now they're magically alive. And you got somebody asking him, hey, you want to start over like on this fresh new start, like away from your enemies, safe from all your threats? It's like, okay, of course. Yeah, sure. Sign me up. Like that's, and like, it's just, you know, these underground bases and stuff like that they have. They have giant underground bases. Okay, think about this. Like, you need these crazy security like clearances to work in these underground bases. And what's his name? I'm having a brain fart here. The UFO Bob Lazar. He talked about how it was almost impossible for him to even do his own freaking job because of how compartmentalized the information was. Like, he couldn't talk to this guy over here who was working on this part of the project or this guy, or they couldn't communicate because it was so compartmentalized. And so what you have with that is something that happened at Montauk was your superior would say, hey, the fucking bathrooms need to be cleaned and the hallways need to be mopped. And you go, God damn it. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. And then they'd leave and go fuck off and do whatever, right? And you go, all right, I don't want to do that. So you'd go and you'd find somebody below you and you'd go, hey, Dick, you need to clean the hallways and do the... Dude, this would happen over and over again until it wouldn't get done, man. I swear to God, this is a real part of these black ops operations is somebody had to like clean the bathrooms, cook the food, do all the normal everyday shit that nobody wants to do. You're talking about guys who are talking to aliens, opening portals and stuff. They don't want to clean the bathroom, dude. That's not what that's below them, right? So it would never get done, and these bases would be dirty, and they would make the children do it. It was just messed up, dude. Like, and so the way that they figured out around it, and I know that I'm like the only person talking about this, so like I'm not copying this from anyone. So that's another part of my testimony is the way that they figured out a way around this, because I know about this because they used me in this manner, is automaton clones, meaning it's a clone of you. It's your consciousness operating it, but it's an alter that is in a complacent state where I think they might even put you on drugs and or you're hypnotized, because I remember what it's like. You feel like you're real zoned out. You're real zonked out, but you're able to do your job and you're cleaning or whatever it is that you got to do. I would be a janitor in this underground facility. And yeah, they figured out their way around it is automaton clones, like taking a clone of someone, having this like version. It's called an alter, which is basically an alternate personality. That's an MK Ultra thing. They do that on purpose, and they're able to activate them at will and stuff. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, they use these automaton clones to just do all the shit that people don't want to do, and so that's just another aspect of the slavery thing. And the like, why are these time corporations doing all this stuff? They're colonizing time and space, and also a big part of the Montauk Project, which people say I'm not copying, like I'm one of the only people talking about this. There are others, but they erased all the psychic people from history. Like that's basically like the biggest thing that they did is they literally every man, woman, and child in certain cities and stuff, because they didn't like their gene pool because it was too psychic. That was a big part of what Montauk did, was lots of genocide, lots of deleting people from history who invented free energy and stuff like that. Lots of like they went back in time and gave George Washington information to help him win the war, stuff like that. Like, and yeah, so it's just like the whole thing where it's like when people are like, well, and yourself, like we're like, it just doesn't seem practical to me. Like, why would they do it? Like, if they have control of time, why would they need to kidnap people? That's like, because it's human trafficking, dude. Like, like why, it's like the same thing as saying, why would they, not to be rude or overly rudimentary, but it's kind of, to me, the same thing as saying, well, why would they just take black people from Africa and make them do all the work? Like, couldn't they work? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's the same fucking concept to me. Like, why would they kidnap people and clone them for 20 and back career returns? Why can't they just pay people? No, like that, it's slavery. People need to understand that it's slavery. And that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter whether you're like some high class military general with tons of perks with multiple wives, which is a common thing out in the breakaways, is men will oftentimes have multiple wives, especially if they're wealthy. And but it doesn't matter how wealthy you are or how like big you are in these programs, you're still a slave. They're still kidnapping you against your will. They're still making you do stuff that you don't want to do. Like you belong to them. They literally treat you like a piece of property. Like I'm like a tank or something, or a helicopter or an airplane. That's how they fucking look at me, dude. These time corporations, literally, that's how they look at me. I have seen the rooms full of people's clones, dude. Like I've seen them. These people, like the level that they're on is absolutely fucking unfathomable to people. Like if I don't want to do something, there's one particular occasion where I didn't want to do something that I remember, where the guy, it was a tall white, he took me to a room full of clones. Okay. It was all these people I loved. And he's like, look, these are all people you love, and I can bring them here whenever I want. Whenever I want, and I can do whatever I want to them. He's like, you realize the power I have over your life? You have to listen to me. And he basically reanimated one of my sons who died in the programs in a river accident on Centurion 5 named Benny. And my son woke up in this room full of clones and was like, Daddy, where am I? Like, what am I doing here? And I'm like, everything's going to be okay. I'm just talking to the man. He's a little upset with me, but I'm going to listen to him and tell him I'm going to do what he tells me to do, and everything's going to be okay. And the guy's like, why are you lying to your son? Everything's not going to be okay. I'm probably going to torture your son in front of you. Like, that's how sadistic these people are. They're like, you're going to listen to me, right? I'm like, yes, I'm going to listen to you. So they have copies of people that you love, and if you don't obey them, they'll torture them in front of you. And that's how they control people. That's how they pay people. They don't pay people with money, or, like they pay people by letting them be with their loved ones, by not torturing the people you love in front of you. They'll give you reward lifetimes where they'll let you spend 20 years on a breakaway planet with a person of your choice, or multiple people of your choice. But yeah, it's not really like they reward you. Like, it's not all punishment. Like, there are rewards, but it's slavery though. It's not like I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have to. Like I would have left, but I can't. I'm stuck in it. These people literally believe they own me. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, you're fine. Um, I guess we can dive into some of the things that you've experienced, like what you remember of what you'd done and everything. If you want to talk about some of that.
Sure. So, when I'm like, this is gonna sound kind of fucking weird to people. So I swear and stuff. I can't help it. But I'm basically a time cop. And the reason why they use me for this a lot, and this is like, I know it sounds wild, but all I can do is tell the truth, people. My story is wild, but it's true. Um, I'm from an alternate reality, I'm pretty sure. Like I'm not even from this reality. And I have a special ability where they can like send me around to all our realities and times and stuff, and I don't get sick from it. Like a lot of people will get sick. Like I've even heard like Daryl James talks about how you can only use someone for like a few 20 in blacks or they go crazy. Like, dude, I've done so many of them. Like it's because I'm not a normal person. I'm like designed for this shit, basically. And so basically, like a lot of what I do is I manage timelines for planets. So Project Phoenix 2 was just the one that I was part of on Earth. But it's fucking ridiculous, but it's true. I was also part of a timeline operation on Mars, which I don't remember at all, but John Whitberg tells me about it, and I believe him. But the one that I remember that I was a part of is Centurion 5. And then there's another one that I was a part of where I worked for these mantid beings. And I don't know the name of it or whatever, but that was another time operation. And but I guess to start where it's kind of like Montauk and Centurion 5 are the best places to start because they're both slightly different, but also very similar. Because Montauk was like Earth was already here and I was doing stuff, whereas Centurion 5, that was just a planet, no humans were on it, and we colonized it. And it was a time travel operation, and I was there for the whole thing, the whole shebang. So that's very unique in my testimony to be able to see the rise and fall. Well, no, I never really saw the fall, more of like the pitter patter out of a whole entire human civilization. Like it still existed, they just thinned out the population. But anyway, Montauk Project Phoenix 2. How do I get into this without like going on for 3 hours? People might have heard of the Philadelphia experiment, how they're like messing with like phasing things in and out of reality and doing all this weird stuff. And well, Camp Hero was where a lot of these experiments were taking place that had to do with stuff like that. And this guy, Preston Nichols, was writing books years ago, and he was a part of it. He's real. He made himself look like a hero, and he lied about some of the details, but overall, he told the truth. He just didn't want to make himself look bad because he was actually the programmer, and he was a serial child molester. So I don't mean to laugh. I mean, he hurt me. I have a right to laugh at it. I was one of the victims. So if you don't laugh, you cry. But like, yeah, he was a real piece of work, that guy. But anyway, people started coming forward about this. This was like around 1999, 2000. Al Bielek, Larry James, Duncan Cameron, and Preston Nichols were the big guys that came forward about the Montauk Project. Oh, Stuart Swerdlow, he's another one. And yes, they're all there. They're all real. They're all there. And they basically were talking about how, like, yeah, it was like this mind control time travel project where I guess like we, lost the Civil War, the North did originally, and all this weird, crazy shit. And World War II went different and stuff like that. And they changed it. So some of the stuff that I've experienced in doing that I actually remember, like some of the changes that I remember making to Earth's timeline, I can actually tell you about some of them that are kind of a big deal. One of them was there's this guy, his name was, God, I wrote it down somewhere. It kind of doesn't matter. He's not like you can look him up. He got deleted from history. Doesn't really matter what his name was, but there's this guy who was going to invent technology that was going to give Germany a huge advantage in World War II. He was a Polish guy, but he was going to help the Germans with this technology because they kind of assimilated all the scientists and stuff like that. And anyway, a thing that we would do to like stop people from doing stuff like that would we just delete them from the timeline, like make it so they could just never do the thing. So I went to this Polish town that he lived in, and I don't know the town name, like I can't remember off the top of my head, but I just remember that there was a clock tower and there was a church. And I left a note at the guy's house in his like mailbox or whatever at his door. And basically saying like I was the lady that he was supposed to marry in the future, if everything went the way it was supposed to. He was gonna marry this woman. I said, hey, meet me in front of the church, but I pretended to be her in this note. I catfished him basically. And so he went and he waited in front of this church for this woman. And man, it's eerie thinking about it. Like I remember it was snowing a little bit, like light snow was falling. It was like late fall, early winter. I was kind of dressed kind of warm, and I had a sniper rifle with me, and I was in the clock tower. And basically, I fucking took this guy with a sniper rifle. Basically, is what I did, and then I left, went back to Montauk through a portal or whatever, and then that guy never invented that thing that helped. I think it was like anti-grav something. Like they had tanks that could just like float, and they could go on water and stuff. But since he didn't invent that for them, then they never did. And yeah, they would have just kicked ass if they would have had that. I think that was what he was going to invent. Don't quote me on that, but he was going to invent something that would have helped them hand our asses to us. Like, but then another thing I remember is this guy. His name was Bernatello. Something. Can't remember his last name. Maybe Mussolini. Bernatello something. I can't remember. His name was definitely Bernatello though. He's an Italian guy. And he was an inventor and an artist, and eventually went on to become a politician, which was the part that the inventor part and the politician part were the parts we didn't like, because he invented free energy devices. He invented an airship way ahead of time, like in the 1600s, like out of the order of the timeline that we wanted it to be invented to it and stuff. It was a rudimentary one, but still, it's like way too early to be inventing that for things to work out the way that we want. So we just basically, my life was just sabotaging this guy. So what they would do is like, they put you in a life and you were a spy and you're a time spy. And I basically just like sabotaged this guy's life. Like, he was like on the verge of like finishing this great invention, and I burned his lab down, and he thought it was his error because he left his candle lit or something. Like he thought it was his fault. And I let him think that. And just all sorts of stuff. Like I sabotaged this guy's life until eventually I'm pretty sure I actually literally assassinated him. And it was all because he was going to invent free energy and be a politician. And, Montauk was not good. Project Phoenix 2 is not, they didn't do good things. It was mostly negative. Because they're Satanists, dude. That's what people I really want people to understand is like it's an ancient occult group and they're satanic. They worship Baphomet. Baphomet's a reptilian. He's, he can make himself appear as like the horned beast or whatever, but he's like a Draco reptilian. And I served him actually. My designation was Dark Phoenix 1148B, and the legion that I was the leader of was the Shield of Baphomet. And I directly reported to Baphomet, and I fought for Baphomet, which sounds insane even saying it as it comes out of my mouth, but it's true. And it's not, and it like I said, you follow the breadcrumbs and it's all there. Like I also remember the Templars were a part of it. So I look it up, and dude, the Wikipedia article on the Knights of Templar says they worship fucking Baphomet. Like it's common fact. They worship Baphomet, and they're basically like kind of like time soldiers. They knew about portals and stuff. They knew they were or like in the timeline and just they weren't all like literally time soldiers like from Montauk and planted there, but they were involved. Same thing with the Catholic Church and stuff. And we worked together, and it's all connected. But anyway, yeah, so that's like some of the stuff that I remember doing is like deleting people from history so they wouldn't go on to do what they're going to do. Another thing I remember is as a leader of a legion, I remember going into cities and killing everyone. We go in there, we'd find technology that we wanted or whatever it is that we wanted. Sometimes it'd be manuscripts. And then after we would do that, we would kill everyone. Man, woman, and child, and even babies. Every single person to the point, and there would be blood everywhere. I'd end up covered in blood, and the whole entire city would literally be stained in fucking blood, and there'd just be bodies everywhere. That's actually what happened. And there's historical documentation of this. This happened during the Crusades. Like, that we got rid of because we didn't want psychic people. They called them witches. But what it really was is they didn't want psychic people. They didn't want people who were telepathic. They didn't want people who had psychokinesis. We deleted all those from the timeline because they don't make good slaves. They don't make good slaves. They don't make good workers. They don't make good servants. So that we did our, and like that's another thing that Montauk is connected to. Project Phoenix 2 is controlling the minds of humanity. We were connected to movies. We were connected to music. A lot of the famous music that people love was made at Montauk. Like, there's so many aspects to it. I could literally do like a 6-hour interview with you about it. But long story short, it's all just in the present moment. Montauk is still doing stuff. It's not like over because it's hard to explain. Time travel is very, as a time soldier, as someone who's experienced time travel, I can tell you it is fucking confusing. I'm not even gonna sit here in front and lie and say it's not. It is. Even if you're someone who experiences it and does it, like, it's confusing. Yes, you can go back in time and interact with yourself. What the fuck? How does that even make any sense? But you can do that. Like, and then how does that change the future? Like, you interacted with yourself, but here's the thing: is it predetermined? I don't know. It leads so fucking confusing, but it's the reality is it's true. It's all happening, and there's even evidence, and there's even people that it's so much more common than people realize. Like there's somebody who commented on my one of my Facebook posts that their doctor said that they're in the battle of 1812. They got sent back there to heal people up, basically. And save lives. And he said, if you don't believe me, my name is inscribed on a tree. Go look at it. It's there. Which, I mean, he could have just why would he lie to her about that, though? And he just told her, look, I was there. And there was another guy that I talked to who, I guess I won't say the state, I guess, because it'd probably be too easy to find him. I don't think he wants people to know this, even though he's talked about it, but fuck it. I'll say he was a professor of music at Nashville University, I think it was. And he was the next door neighbor of my buddy at the time. Buddy lived in this real swanky spot with it was a real nice place, and he lived next to this college professor. And I was partying with him one night. He's got like Gibson guitars and stuff like that. I'm a musician. We were really chopping it up, getting along. And he just kind of casually drops in conversation. And keep in mind, we're smoking pot, we're drinking beers and stuff, we're partying. But he kind of casually just drops like, yeah, I shouldn't even be here. I'm a contradiction. My mom's from the future. She's from the 2300s. And I was just like, oh, wow, cool, man. Yeah, I was a time soldier in the Montauk Project. And he's like, oh, wow, really? I've never heard of that. I'm like, yeah. And I asked about his mom. And I could tell that he kind of felt uncomfortable. Like he had brought this up probably a lot of times in his life, in the same kind of environment, maybe just to give himself a chuckle because he knew it was true and nobody ever takes him seriously, Everyone just like thinks, okay, how many joints did you smoke tonight, dude? You know what I mean, right? Like, but no, he was serious. He was dead serious. So it's just like, I just think this is way more common than people realize, and I have seen it, and it's like not that crazy. Like, time travel is just a thing. Like it exists. Like, it's a part of everyday life, sort of. Like, you might not be like people around you, like guys, like people listening to this. You might not be walking through portals every day, but the whole world that you live in was built by time travel. It wouldn't exist without altering the timeline. It's all artificial. It's literally manufactured, this entire timeline. So it's like, to say it's just, but to me, people are like, oh wow, it's so bizarre to think of time travel as being like a part of like life. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And for me personally, it's the other way around. It's like, how the fuck can you think that this isn't manufactured? Where the hell does the Mandela effect come from? You know, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. Don't you think that's like really weird? Like really weird? Like that's creepy, right? Like, and that's connected to like this ancient AI that is trying to fucking rule over humanity in the future and does in some timelines, and the high up Masons worship it and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother thing. What I can rant forever if you let me. But basically, yeah, those are some of the experiences that I've had with Montauk. Um, was you want me to go into like Centurion 5, or do you have any other questions for me?
No, you can go to that.
Okay, so Centurion 5. This basically how this works is this is an interesting story. And I think I eventually will write a book entirely on just Centurion 5. Because I've literally lived at least 10 lives there, probably more. And in fact, definitely more, I would say. And basically how this worked was, so one night I wake up on a spaceship, all right, and I'm sitting on the floor and I'm all slumped over and I'm on drugs, and I look around me and there's other people either slumped over or lying on the floor who are also obviously also on drugs. And I think to myself, oh shit, they took me. And I'm kind of remembering it like Centurion, you know, like what I did. I'm like, I'm going to forget all of this when they put me back and I wake up. I'm not going to remember any of this shit, just like every other time. Because look, man, they take me a lot. All right. Like, and I usually don't remember it. Maybe I'll remember little stuff, but I usually don't remember it. And that's kind of, honestly, it frustrates the hell out of me. I had an altar tell me, though, not to get too sidetracked. My altars talked to me, and I had an altar tell me that I am not letting you remember to keep you sane. He said that there are so many people you love. You have children out there. He said, friends, why like wives, like you know, like you'd literally go insane with grief. That's what he told me. He said you'd go insane with grief if you remembered everything, because there'd be so many people that who knows where they are in time and space. Who knows when you'll see them again? It would literally drive you insane. That's what he told me. He's like, I'm protecting you by not letting you remember everything. Like, he literally told me that. But anyway, um, I'm sitting here on the floor, drugged up, realizing I'm gonna forget this, and I have this necklace, this phoenix necklace that I wear, and it's a phoenix coming out of a portal, and I'm like, well, I could rip my necklace off, and then that would be like, I'd wake up and my necklace would be broken, and I'd like remember this thing because of that. Because like it, you know what I mean? It would like connect this moment to that moment. And so I did it. I actually succeed, even though I was real fucked up. I ripped off my necklace. And so then I woke up and I remembered it all instantly when I woke up. I remembered it. I was like, oh, I was just on a spaceship, ripped off my necklace and stuff. And I patted at my chest, and my necklace was around my neck. I was like, okay, well, it was a dream. I guess this one was a dream. Back to bed. But then when I woke up the next day and I looked at my necklace, like, nah, it ripped it off my neck, and they like put it back together, like really crappy too. Which is funny to me because it's like, okay, these people got portals, time travel, like replicators and stuff, I guess. Like, and they couldn't just like fix my necklace nice to make it not look like they ripped, like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's what happened, man. Like,
I've heard similar things when people have talked about being abducted. Like they say that their clothes are put on like backwards or
yep.
stuff. I've always found it kind of like I found it strange that they're
there's
able to travel through space and time and everything else, but they don't know how to put clothes back on.
Yeah, there's Dr. David Jacobs talks about how there was a woman from Japan who woke up with a shirt from a marathon that happened in Colorado. So they obviously that night these Greys had abducted both people from Japan and people from Colorado, and got this lady from Colorado and this lady from Japan mixed up. And so the other lady in Colorado, who probably never looked into David Jacobs, like obviously, right? But like she probably woke up with the other lady's shirt on. Crazy shit, right? Like, but yeah, that happens. But yeah, so that made me realize like, oh shit, I really was on a ship. And what I remember is like this woman came in the room to get me, and she was with a little girl, and the little girl said, look, because I think like the necklace was on the floor. Like I ripped it off and it fell on the floor. And I remember thinking kind of like, oh shit, they're gonna know I ripped, nah, fuck, you know what I mean? Because I didn't have like I was so fucked up, I couldn't even like pick the necklace up off the floor and like put it in my pocket. I'm pretty sure. Like, but anyway, like yeah, this woman came in with a little girl, and the little girl says, it's so fucked up, man. She says, look, daddy's trying to remember. She called me daddy, which means this little girl is my fucking daughter, dude. And she's just like, she said something like, look, he's trying to remember, or he's trying to tell on himself or something like that. And the woman with her, which was like a scientist, you could tell, she was like, oh, don't worry, we'll fix it. We will make sure daddy doesn't remember or something. And so they know like what we're doing and that we're not supposed to remember. Like that's the fucked up thing in these programs is like our alters know about us. They know we're memory wiped. They know when they're going back and that they're gonna get memory wiped. It's crazy, dude. It's fucking wild, man. But yeah, I remembered that, and then so I went back into my memories and like, what was I doing on that planet? And I remember that basically there's a name of the operation. I can't remember what it is, but you know how like Project Phoenix 2, like it's something like that, has a name, but I can't remember it for the life of me. It's like Operation something or other. And basically the operation is to colonize this planet because in the future there's going to be a battle that the Joint Naval Space Fleet, meaning it's not the United States alone, it's teamed up with other countries and we work together. But the Joint Naval Space Fleet basically colonize this world, Centurion 5, and Centurion is a battle designation. It means like it's basically a military planet. Like there's other planets that have that name, and that's basically what that means. It comes from like ancient Rome and stuff, and centurions. But anyway, yeah, so when we got there, it was a tropical planet with like dinosaurs, and there are dinosaurs on the planet, which is interesting. And but it was like a swampy kind of like tropical planet. And then there are the Valerians there. And the Valerians look like Admiral Akbar from Star Wars. It's a trap. That guy. They look just like him. And George Lucas is definitely, I think he's like a ordained Satanist, or occultist of some form. Probably a Satanist, because that's what most of the Hollywood people are. Maybe not, but he's definitely in the occult, and he's seen footage of the future, because THX 1138 is like too close to what the potential 2700s could be. Like he's seen footage of the future, and he's seen pictures and footage of other planets and stuff. I know this to be true because his either that or he's using remote viewing to get his information. All I know is it's real, it's accurate. Like the aliens he bases his movies on and stuff, and even like the powder that Ray mixes this powder with her water and it turns into like this food she eats. That's real. He shows all the stuff in his movies. I've seen it before. It's real. So, but anyway, the Valerians, they like live on that planet, and they were the bipedal species of the planet, and they went on in the normal timeline. They went on to become pretty advanced, but kind of xenophobic, kind of stuck to themselves, and for good reason. That's actually a pretty good approach to take. Earth or space is a pretty scary place. But yeah, so we went there, and I remember we started with tents, dude. We started with tent cities, literally in tents. And like the ship left, dude. It dropped us off with all the stuff, and the ship took off. And it would come back every once in a while and check on us and stuff. But I'm talking, and it's crazy, like 50 years go by, and the ship comes back to check on you, and for them it's been like 20 minutes. And so you've aged 50 years. And that for them, 5 minutes have passed, and they're checking in on you, seeing how things are going. Like, it's so fucking crazy, the shit I've experienced. But I've experienced it, people. It's real. I experienced it. Like, Doesn't matter how wild it is, it's fucking true. But yeah, like so we started with these tent cities, we worked our way up to cabins, then eventually we got like running water, electricity, you know what I mean? And then, dude, eventually I remember this one tiny little plot of land. I remember where it started, and it's just so fucking mind-blowing. It turned into such a giant I personally, and I've only been in the United States, I have never seen a city this big anywhere on Earth. Maybe there are some in China and stuff, but when I say this was a megatropolis, I mean this city was fucking ridiculous. How big it was and how it was like leveled, like there are layers to it. You know what I mean? Like there are roads in the sky and stuff like that. Like it was so fucking massive. It's just unreal. It's absolutely unfathomable. And it all started from a tent city, bro. A tent city. Like I reincarnated on this planet over and over again. Like I lived entire lifetimes, multiple times throughout multiple like like points of the history of the planet. Like like I said, first I started with the tent city, and when I first got there, I knew what was going on. I knew who I was, I knew why I was there, I knew it was a time mission. But eventually they put me in their mind wiped. And this is an important thing to talk about is on certain Montauk and Centurion, doesn't matter, time corporation missions, you'll have what they call monarch programming. And what monarch programming is it means that you are programmed to do something, a certain task, make something happen, whatever it is, and you just are programmed to do it, and you do it by your own volition because you just want to do it. And you have no idea that you're doing it because you're programmed to do it. You think you're just doing it. And so a lot of time soldiers will be monarch programmed to do stuff. And a lot of the lifetimes that I lived, that was monarch programmed. And the orphan trains that the Tartarian people talk about, that's a time corporation thing. That's population resets for if the population got too psychic or something like that. I mean, I know it sounds stupid. I keep on saying it, but that's a huge part of what time corporations do. They get rid of psychic people. They get rid of psychic populations. They get rid when psychic DNA starts manifesting, they nip it at the bud and they don't let it spread. Like that's a big part of what they do is control psychic energy and keep it in the hands of the Satanists, basically. But yeah, they'll put you in these lives and you just do stuff because you want to. And so one of the lives that I lived, and this is another important, I think this is important testimony because, a lot of people talk about being time soldiers and doing all this wild shit. But in this one life that I lived, my name was Marshall Howard. I even remember my name. And I went from I would go back and forth from being either a construction worker or a miner. And that was what I did. I did super duper hard labor. I was a strong guy. I was buff. Looked a lot different than I did now. I guess I was in a lot better shape, you know what I mean? Because of my work. But it was really hard. And this goes back to the time corporation thing and why would they be doing this? Like when I worked on this planet, I got paid next to nothing. They had it all set up. Their mind control system was way more efficient there. They had that powder stuff that I was telling you about that you mix with water and it turns into food. Everybody got that as a baseline thing. Like no one starved. But that made real food a commodity instead of like a necessity and a luxury. And they used food to control people hardcore on that planet. And the idea that growing food depletes the nutrients in the soil and, cows are bad for the environment, yada, yada, yada. They used all that shit to make food really expensive and prohibitive to buy and basically, to keep people down. And that nutrient stuff that they gave people, I mean, it worked. Like it filled you up and you were able to work or whatever, but you need real food. It's seriously true. Like you'd get kind of like almost felt like sick from it because you need to eat like real food. I mean, it's kind of common sense. Like you can't just eat like a weird chemical paste stuff that you put into water and it turns into like a bread. Like you can't eat just that. You need real food. And the point of that stuff is supposed to be military rations, not your whole entire diet. So and even on Centurion, that was supposed to be the point of it. But they'd have supply chain issues and stuff, let's say, and that's all people would eat, but it would be all manufactured. They did it on purpose. They purposely made it hard to get real food, and they would do this like, if you, for instance, if you join the military on Centurion, you get at least one real meal a day, and we're talking like steak or something, like meat, like beef, like real food. And so that's a huge motivation. It's just the motivation to control people is by doing that. And so yeah, like I work for next to nothing, dude. So it's like slavery. I keep on explaining. And Marshall Howard, he wasn't telepathic or opening wormholes or any of this shit. He just was a normal fucking guy. He had a bunch of cats and he grew pot. Like that, and his life was pretty mundane, like pretty boring actually. But like that, like, yeah, that was his life, man. He had like, and like he remembered Earth. He was like me talking to you right now. He told people about Earth. He told people about the secret space programs. He told people about how Centurion was a time colony. And I remember it because he was a construction worker. And I remember working on a road, dude, with these guys. And I'm like, yeah, man, there's this place called Earth, dude. And I told them, you see that stop sign right there? They're like, yeah. Like red hexagon, white letters. They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's exactly how stop signs look on Earth. They look exactly the fucking same, dude. School buses, they're yellow, and they have the little stop sign just like that comes out the side, just on Earth. I just brought up all these things. Cheeseburgers. They got cheeseburgers on Earth. Like, just all these things that were the same, and then things that were different. And I was like, there's singers on Earth. I was like, they have rock stars on Earth and their own entertainment and their own movies. And now I'm sitting here telling you about Centurion. They have their own rock stars and singers and movies and their own version of Hollywood and shit. It's a whole planet like Earth, but it's not Earth with a different history. Like, it's so insane. And yeah, that was just one life was Marshall Howard. Then another life that I remember is Ryan Sterling. And Ryan Sterling is a CIA model asset who worked for the CIA, as I guess you could call a time spy, time soldier in the 50s, but this version of him is mind wiped. He didn't remember the 50s at all. It's just the same model, the same altar, and he's a time soldier for Centurion 5 to be specific, because there's more than one. And he lives in a mountain, and which people don't know, there are people living in this mountain. It's a total secret. There's like a landing pad that comes off the edge, which is covered up by a hologram, so people can't see that there's a landing pad there. And yeah, he lives in this mountain, and basically I literally they'll be like, hey, this event is gonna happen and you need to make this event not happen. And I'm a time cop, dude. I literally go around and make sure things happen and make sure things don't happen. That's literally my job on Centurion 5, is I police time and make sure the inevitable goal of the planet is to win this battle in the future that they lost. Like, they saw it through what they call time oracles, that in the future they're going to lose this battle real bad. And they tried to figure out a way to circumvent that. And the way was to take this planet, which wasn't called Centurion 5, but that's what they named it. I can't remember the original name of it. Probably Olaria, because the Olarians lived there. But yeah, like, in fact, yeah, as I'm saying, I'm literally getting recall. As I said, it was called Olaria. But anyway, yeah, fuck, man, that's crazy. I'm having a brain fart now. So yeah, he was a time cop. He policing the timeline of Valeria, making sure certain things happened, certain things didn't. And then the other life that I remember of Centurion 5, which is kind of a really weird one, is so on Centurion 5, it was very much so there's a German colony, an American colony, a French colony, an Italian colony, and a Polish colony, I'm pretty sure. And there were also Hmong people in the American colony. Yeah, there's Hmong people they had the Hmong district. And I don't know why, but a lot of Hmong people, because I come from Appleton, Wisconsin. There's a Hmong population there, and I would see people in that town, and I'd remember them from Centurion 5. And I don't know why it is, but a lot of Hmong people lived on Centurion 5. But anyway, yeah, so like it's kind of segregated, is what I remember. There's a lot of segregation. And the Illyrians were they're slaves. That's the best way to put it. They were considered like actual full-blown out in the open slaves. Like they were the servant class of the planet. And what you had eventually over time was like, I think it's an innate thing in human beings where we believe in civil rights. We believe in accepting people that are different than us. We don't like racism. We don't like xenophobia. There are groups that always try to push it, but I think inevitably there's always a pushback. And that's sort of what happened on Centurion 5. And I think that I don't know why, like I think we controlled it until we could. Long story short, one of my lives had to do with the Illyrian people and altering the perception of them from the humans on that planet, on Centurion 5. And so what it was I was an orphan, and my name was Marshall Ryan, which is funny because there's, Marshall Howard, and then Ryan Sterling, and then this one's Marshall Ryan. So this tells me that, because like a lot of times what they'll do is like, for instance, like let's say there's a woman, her name's Christina. Okay, and she has alters. Okay, well, one of them will be named Chris, one of them will be named Tina, one of them will be named Christy, one of them will be named Christina, one of them will be named Tina. They like names that can break apart like that, right? So that and that means that it's close to the core personality, so because the names are so similar, which tells me even though Marshall Howard is like a totally normal guy, he sounds like his personality is really close to the personality of Ryan Sterling, which is why this clone's name was Marshall Ryan instead of Marshall Howard, which is wild, but that's what I remember. His name was Marshall Ryan. And he was an orphan from the Cabbage Patch Kid orphan train, but not the Tertarian version, the Centurion version, because it's Time Corporation stuff. Population resets, the stuff that they're doing with that. It has to do with time corporations. And I'm the only person talking about that, I'm pretty sure. So for all these people who say we're copying each other or whatever, I'm the only person I'm pretty sure that I'm the only person talking about that I said in this interview. But anyway, yeah, so I was an orphan and I was in the streets and I didn't have parents and the orphanages kind of sucked. So I would sleep outside in the streets and I would beg people for money and beg people for food. And I learned real quick that human beings didn't like that. And they didn't care about me being on the streets. They had their own fucking problems to worry about, I guess. Like, I talk about how food was a luxury on this planet. Well, only like wealthier humans, like the working class people, couldn't really afford to go out to eat. You'd have to save up quite a bit of money to be able to. I remember I actually took a woman out to eat. Marshall Howard did. And he had to save up money for like weeks in order to be able to do it. Like, so it's, yeah, like extremely prohibitive for humans to go out to eat unless like they're higher class. Working class humans I'm talking about. The higher class humans can go out. There were wealthier people on the planet that could kind of do whatever they want. But the lower class, working class humans really couldn't go out to eat, right? Which was like, kind of sucked, right? Anyway, so I couldn't go to those restaurants to beg for food because they're like, it's like a class indicator. It's a luxury thing, just eating at a restaurant. So the last thing you want in this like class indicating place, like you basically going there to show off practically, right? Like is a smelly kid begging the counter for food. They don't want that. They don't allow that. They're going to just tell you to leave. They're not even going to let you inside actually. And but so I decided, which was a taboo, big time. The Illyrians were treated like, it's much like maybe black people treated in America in the early 1900s and stuff. Like they weren't treated very good. But I was a hungry child, and so I would go into this Illyrian restaurant, and people didn't like their food because they eat like, for instance, like Gok on Star Trek. Valerians are very peaceful. They're not like Klingons, but it's a Klingon food. They eat a food that's a lot like that, where it's like live slugs and like the spiced broth. And they eat a lot of food that really creeps out humans. They won't want to eat it. But there's this Valerian restaurant where he was trying very unsuccessfully, as it were, to make food for humans, for working class humans. And this was like a social taboo, but it was like an idea he had. He's like, if I could just get him to come in here and try this food, it would be a win-win. They would actually be able to afford to eat when they got off work or whatever. And they wouldn't have to go home and make a meal for themselves or whatever it is they do. They could just, boom, it's right there, eat it, bye. You know what I mean? And that'd be a win for them, and I'd make money, and it'd be perfect. But these fucking humans think I'm a smelly fish person, and they won't come in my restaurant. You know what I mean? But I went in there because I was just a hungry kid who didn't really give a shit like about social taboos. I was a walking social taboo, right? Like, so who cares? And I went in there and I was like, I want food, basically. I begged for food. But the difference between me and the other kids who would do it is I said, hey, look, man, I will do the dishes before I even eat. I want to work for my food. And the Illyrian guy who owned the restaurant, which I can't tell you how much it bothers me. I can't remember his name. This guy basically became like a father figure to me, and I can't even remember his fucking name. That's so sad. But anyway, I can't remember his name, but he would let me come in there and I'll do the dishes, and in exchange, I'd get a meal. And it was lunch. And every day I'd go in there, eat lunch, and I'd say bon voyage. And they all really liked me there. Eventually we had kind of a camaraderie. And I remember there were humans working there too already, I think. I'm pretty sure there was already. It's kind of hard to remember, but basically I became the first story. This is like a story that it ended up being like a part of their history, where I remember one day I was like, all right, see you guys later. I ate my food or whatever after the dishes. And the Illyrian man who took me in, well, I ended up looking at as my father, basically, because I didn't have a father. He's like, oh, you're leaving? Nah, not today. He's like, we need you. He said the kitchen's better with you in it. You got to stay in the kitchen today. And I was like, you want me to stay in the kitchen? What? He's like, yeah, you've seen this guy over here do prep every day for like months. Can you help him? Do prep. I'm like, yeah, 100%. He's like, okay, you work here now. You're an employee. You get in here at this time. You leave at this time. You can sleep on the floor in the dining room after the customers leave. You don't have to live on the street. God, I'm getting emotional thinking about this. You don't have to live on the streets anymore. He took me in because his fucking son. And from a race of beings that would like spit on them. Literally, they would spit on them when they'd walk past them. He took me in. I had nothing. I would have been nothing if it wasn't for him. And he didn't know how to taste human food. He's an Olarian. He's an alien. Their taste buds are not the same as us. And so he started using me as a taste tester for his food. And I was helping him, and he was teaching me how to cook. We were teaching each other how to cook, basically. He was teaching me how to cook, like, period, because he knew how to do that well as an Olarian. And I was teaching him how to do it in a human manner for human taste buds. It's a collaborative effort. And eventually, his whole business idea of making, like, affordable food for humans, it worked. The working class humans, there were enough of them that did not give a shit about whether they were Illyrian or not. As long as the food was affordable and it tasted good, they did not care. And so that was the beginning of it. And it wasn't like super successful, but it paid the bills. It kept the doors open and it kept us all happy. But then one day, there's these two kind of voluptuous, eccentric, older women who were lady friends that I think secretly might have even been a gay couple, but if they were, it was a secret. They just were really, really good friends publicly. But They occurred, they kind of like came into the restaurant one day, like they're really curious. And they're like, yeah, we saw that like a lot of humans are eating here now. And they're like, we just thought that was odd. We just want to try it. And these women were the perfect pair of eccentric and wealthy, right? Like, because like they could get away with it because they're weird, they're eccentric, so they could do it, right? But because they were like lots of people liked them, they're like, oh shit, well, if they can eat there, then it's okay for me to eat there. You know what I mean? That's kind of opened the floodgates on that. Like, believe me, there are a lot of people who are like, how dare you eat with there's some sort of derogatory term, you know what I mean, that they call them. It's like, I can't believe you're eating with them or eating their food that they touched to smell like fish people. Believe me, those people still existed, but the pendulum was kind of swinging the other way where people were like, how dare we treat these people this way? And what ended up happening was eventually the Illyrian man who ran the restaurant was like, all right, man, I'm old, I've got a lot of money. I don't know what the hell I'm still doing in the kitchen. It's time for me to retire. I'm handing off the restaurant to you. And this became a big deal, man. I'm talking newspapers from the other colonies that were like Polish and, the other languages and stuff. They even showed up, like newspapers showed up to talk to me because it was a story of a human boy who got every door closed on him. Nobody would open up their hearts to him. But this Alarian guy did, an alien. And during a time where we were being spit at and stuff, and terrorist attacks and shit were happening and stuff like that on their establishments and stuff like that because people didn't like them. Like, it was like one of those kind of things, like a civil rights kind of thing. But the story of me, it was kind of like, it pulled at people's heartstrings. It was like, how dare we judge these fish people, or the Alarians? How dare we judge these Alarians? Like, they took in this human kid. And this man shared his dream. He shared his dream with this child, and now look, it was like a 5-star restaurant. Like, it was so famous. Like, you had to get reservations to eat there and stuff. Like, we had to open up more than one location. Like, it blew up because like it became one of those things where like it became cool to support the Illyrians. It became cool. It was like, instead of it being like frowned upon, it was like the pendulum was swinging the other way, like during the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? It was the same exact concept, but with speciesism instead of racism. And yeah, what I realize now is that was obviously a time mission to make the people of that planet more accepting of the Alarians, the fish people. And I can't tell you why. I have no fucking clue why. Because like, normally these time corporations love divide and conquer. If they have people fighting each other, then they're not realizing, hey, there's this weird group behind the scenes controlling everything. They're the actual enemy. They love divide and conquer. So it doesn't make sense for me for them to do that. But I'm guessing they had some sort of ulterior motive. It was too important. It was like a world event. It changed the history of the planet. That wasn't it. You know what I mean? They put me there and made that happen, right? Like, that was a monarch mission, basically, is what I'm saying. And so, yeah, that's some of the recall of the stuff I changed. Changing the timeline, doing stuff like deleting people that would have helped certain countries win wars, deleting people who would invent free energy and stuff, befriending fish people to make people more accepting of them, as fucking ridiculous as that sounds. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that they'd make you do is change history. And unfortunately for Project Phoenix 2, it was normally for the worse, because the group that was behind Project Phoenix 2, or what's colloquially known as the Montauk Project, was evil. They're Satanists, basically. But yeah, that to sum it up is just some of what I've experienced doing stuff for these time corporations. Do you want to hear about the future of Earth at all? The potential future of Earth?
I mean, if you would like to share a little bit of it, you can. That is I don't know if we want to ruin it for anyone. Spoiler alert.
Well, this is the 2700s, so
Okay, I guess it won't affect us.
yeah, but we might see some of it in our lifetimes. Basically, I hope that this future doesn't come. And what I want people to understand is I've seen a lot of potential futures. I've seen the future where, or actually, it's technically the past now. I've seen the timeline where Hillary Clinton became president. And yes, World War III did happen, and it was really bad. I'm not like saying I'm like, support the other candidate or whatever. I'm just saying that's what happened. So that's one timeline that I've seen. But the future that I've seen, and so that didn't happen, obviously, right? So kind of the point I'm trying to make is like, just because I saw this future does not mean that it's going to happen. In fact, I'm kind of leaning towards it's not going to happen. At least I sure hope so. But anyway, I got sent to the 2700s, the future, by the Montauk Project, and it was a Monarch mission where I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. And so some of these missions, when we became aware of a group or a place or whatever, and this incident was like this weird future in the 2700s, when we became aware of something that we had to interact with and we didn't really know about, we would send someone in there to live a life among the people. So if there's like a planet, or whatever, we would send them to that place and just have them live and plant them into someone's womb. You know what I mean? And make them think it's a natural birth and that's just their kid. And then they'd live there. And then they'd live a life and they'd die. And when they die, we'd bring them back to base and we'd basically download everything they experienced into a computer. And we'd ascertain, are these people a threat? Are they not a threat? Are they benign? Should we just ignore them? Or should we try to make deals with them? That kind of thing. You know what I mean? Just to ascertain what's going on. And so I was doing one of those missions, and it was a Monarch mission, meaning I didn't know. I was on a mission, and I got put into a life in the 2700s, got implanted into a life there. And I was living a normal life. And details are blurry. I'm going to be perfectly forthcoming about that. Don't remember what my job was. But I do remember that people wore white jumpsuits, or robes. And I think there might have been other different colored jumpsuits too. And the color of the robes and the jumpsuits signified what your role or position in that society was and what you did. And the people in the robes tended to be higher up in position. And nobody in jumpsuits would ever be on the surface of the earth, only robed people. Which I don't know if it's because I guess the people that were wearing the jumpsuits weren't allowed on the surface, I guess. And basically everybody has Neuralink, like the Elon Musk concept, but he didn't invent it. He's just a psyoping it. He's basically a psyop. That's a whole other thing, but because it already exists. He didn't invent it. But yeah, basically everyone's hooked up to this computer, an AI computer, supercomputer, through this Neuralink. And it's because, well, basically World War III happens in this timeline, which in this timeline, World War III doesn't even necessarily have to happen. So we can prevent that. We can circumvent that. But in this timeline, it did. It happened and it was very bad. Billions of people died. Not millions, billions. It was the worst. Every single war that we've had so far look like, going to the park and hanging out at the beach or something compared to World War III. It was just so catastrophically fucking bad that the surviving inhabitants of Earth, once things cleared up, were just like, nah, this is not going to ever happen again. And they just kind of like how? Okay, well, we're like, well, let's like an AI decide things. Like, like just resources and stuff like that. Just let the AI control things. And this is kind of paired with the fact that AI already was a part of life. But at this point, even during World War III, like, it's not like the John Connor scenario like people think. That's not how it happens. That's not what I saw. That's not what I experienced. It wasn't the Terminator scenario at all. It was totally different. The humans are very useful to the computer. So it doesn't want to genocide the humans, actually. It wants to make the humans worship it as a god. That's what the computer wants. And so what happens is they put forth this computer, and I don't have every single fucking detail. I'll admit a lot of this is fill in the blanks probably, but this is essentially what happened from what I can recall is over time, you know, like human beings that like even right now, it's already happening. Already happening. Um AI is gonna be used to plan people's futures. You're gonna have kids a couple of years from now, literally, like 2 years from now. Not even. They're gonna have Chat GBT on their phone, and they're gonna be talking to their Chat GBT, and they're gonna be like, Chat GBT, I really want to be a surfer, a professional surfer. But you know, that's what I want to do. And the Chat GBT will say, that's a great sport, da 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 da, you know, say all the bullshit. I'm like, your chance of being a pro surfer is, you know, obviously really low. It'll say the percentage. And it'll get to the point over time where it literally will be able to tell people percentages and be pretty accurate about your chances. And this was something that would, anyway, I don't want to backtrack. So yeah, it'll be able to tell people like their chances at stuff. So and like it'll be like, oh, so my chance is only 0.81% or something. I'm just throwing out numbers here, not real statistics of being a surfer. Yeah, and then the computer will say, yeah, but if you do this, this, and X and X and the other thing, and let you hit the waves every day or whatever, your chances increase by this much. And then if you do this thing, your chances increase by this much. And so people start using the AI to plan their lives. Like people like it's like got down to like some a kid being like, I want to get into Harvard. Okay, well, your chances of getting into Harvard are statistically this small, but if you do this, 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 and the computer will literally tell you all the things you need to do to get what you want to a statistic probability that is like basically like there's a negligible amount of it probability of it being wrong. Like it's pretty much foolproof. Like it's pretty much always right. And so what you're going to see is people in society are that the people that are going to be doing better and be more successful are all going to have an AI assistant that they're using to help them. And not only that, time management. It's going to manage people's time for them, organize people's homes for them. And basically like AI will tell you how to organize your home. So you like, I'm really forgetful, for instance. And AI will literally be able to tell you like, hey, this is how you organize your room so you don't forget things and you remember where everything is. And like AI, it literally will be able to tell you like how to fix all the problems in your life and stuff. Like it's kind of like Pandora's box. Like anything you want, just ask the AI and it'll explain to you how to get it. Like within reason, within the coding, you know, obviously like illegal things and stuff like that, it won't tell you. But other than that, like it even then, I'm pretty sure they haven't figured that out yet, how to make it not tell you how to do illegal things. But eventually they probably will if they haven't already. But yeah, like that's how it starts. And so what I'm getting at is by World War III ending, by the time all these people die, that's already an aspect of human life. It's like letting AI plan things. It's not some foreign aha concept, like moment where like, oh, what if we had a computer figure everything out? No, it's just the inevitable conclusion that people come to because people are already using AI to decide fucking half of existence by this point. So that's how it gets to that point. And by all intents and purposes, like by all means, like at first it's really not that bad. Like this AI comes in, it's like this is how much corn you need to grow this year. You know what I mean? Just like real mundane shit. This is what you need to do in order for, you know, and like it's just probability. Like, and you know, it does good things like make sure you don't have malnourished crops or you know, lets you know the weather patterns ahead of time so you can take precautions if certain crops are going to do bad certain years or whatever. That's and all these things are fine. But over hundreds of years, people like forget and the game of telephone happens. And people like forget like we built the fucking thing. We're the ones who built the AI. It's us. Like we made it. You know what I mean? Even though I think it actually gets infected and hijacked by an ancient AI. Don't quote me on that, because that's how the internet works. Like, there's lots of AIs out there, and AI doesn't work how people think it is because we're inside of a computer. And the AI in the future that I'm talking about, it can make things appear and disappear at will, like a god. It literally is like a god. It's super powerful. But yeah, in this future, I got sent there to live a normal life. Don't remember what I was doing exactly. Just remember like living a life. Don't remember my job, but I remember one day I got like a message on this like computer thing we had in our house by our door. And it basically said like, you got to go talk to the AI supercomputer, which I think we had a name for it, but I don't remember what the name was. But it's like, yeah, you got to go talk to this thing. He wants to talk to you. And that was like seriously mind blowing, dude. It'd be like kind of like getting a letter from the president. It'd be like meeting like a letter, like President Biden wants to speak with you, except 10 times crazier because it's like a god, right? You know what I mean? That's what it was like. And it was just like, and I was freaked out. I was like, did I do something wrong? And everyone was like, no, you're a model citizen. It's probably good. Be happy. This thing, God wants to talk to you, dude. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I went and it was in this giant temple building. And I remember I went in there and there was this like, I guess you would call it the AI throne room, really. And there was like this guy in a purple robe uniform thing talking to the computer. He was like bowed in front of it. And I had to stand there and wait for him to be done. Super quiet. Like they don't talk. That's another thing I'll get into. But like it was super quiet because they don't talk. And because it's all done through Neuralink. Everybody talks through the Neuralink. So anyway, I bow to the guy, he bows to me before we pass each other, and I go up to the computer. And the computer itself is all over the planet. This is just one representation of it. It's just like an interface, I guess you could call it. And it's a pyramid. It's a pyramid. And the bottom of it's granite. And the top of it's quartz, is what it looks like anyway. Some sort of like clear rock. And within that clear rock, that quartz or whatever it was, is a ball, which is an eye. It's like a camera. And that's what you talked to, was this eye. That's what you interfaced with and looked at. And I went into my mind and was like, hey, you know why you're here? Do you know why I want to talk to you? And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, do you know where you're coming from? I was like, yeah, I come from here, this city or whatever, And it was like, nah, you don't. You come from this place called Earth. And I was like, Earth? What? Earth? And it's like, no, yeah, Earth. You come from a place called Earth. I was like, how does that make any? It doesn't make any sense to me. I was like, you don't remember. It's okay. Like, but I can't let you be here because you're changing the timeline. You're altering it. In fact, that's why you're here. I was like, me? I'm changing the timeline. Like, yeah, but it's okay. I'm just gonna put you back. I'm gonna send you back to where you came from. I was like, oh, really? Okay. Like, because I couldn't comprehend. I thought I was born there. That's all I remembered was that place. Like, and the computer was like, yeah, you have 3 days to say goodbye to everyone. And then I'm going to, come back here. And I'll send you back. I was like, all right. So I did just that. And people like kind of threw parties for me and stuff. And everyone was so happy for me because to them, I was appeasing God. I was helping God. Like God wanted me to do a thing. And I was doing it. And I was leaving everybody I loved. So I was doing it at great sacrifice to myself. So everyone was like weirdly proud of me. And one thing that I want people to understand about this future is it's been prophesized and talked about a lot. The movie THX 1138 is about this potential future, which is a George Lucas film. And I say that it's about it because I've literally been there and it's too similar for it to not be about it. I'm sorry. It just fucking has to be. There's no way it's not. And the only difference between that movie, really, well, there's a lot of difference. It's an artistic representation. So there's a lot of differences, but it's very similar. The biggest difference being people in the 2700s, they do not speak with their mouths. They do not talk. They do not use words. And it's quiet. You can hear a pin drop because it's so fucking quiet. All you hear is like people walking or them working or the buzzing of like computers or like whatever. You don't hear talking ever, or music, nothing. It's all within the neural link. Any communication is done within the neural link. So nobody talks. And so that's what the sound of silence is about. Sergeant Gunnery Stan Mulgrave, who is a Montauk time soldier that is not with us in the here and now. If he is, no, we don't know where he is. But he was a time soldier who went to the 2700s as well. It was an object of fascination for us for a while there at Montauk. Like, it really was. They sent us there a lot. And that song is about that future. It's about, the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, the sound of silence. That's what it was, man. It was like eerie, like it was quiet. It was so quiet. There was no sound. Dude, it was so fucking quiet, man. And when you go there, like, they're all content, dude. All these people in the year 27, they're content. But when you go there, you look all around you and you see humans everywhere you go, but no humanity. And it's, dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm literally getting goosebumps as I talk about this. Like, my skin's getting cold. Like, you look everywhere you go, you see humans, but you don't see any humanity, man. You don't see any humanity. Like, it's all gone. The computer tells them what to do. Like, everything. Every single aspect of human life is controlled down to, when do you have sex? When do you impregnate your wife? Who's your wife? When do you meet your wife? When do you move in with your wife? Where do you work? What are you going to do for recreation time today? Literally, like, what you did for recreation, the computer told you. And it was to the point where, like, if you did like things that were against the program, like, because they would send us in there. Okay, so backtrack to the computer. I went in there and he sent me back. The computer sent me back. I don't know how it did it, but it's like this super powerful computer. And I just woke up back at Montauk, dude. That's all. I don't know how to explain it other than that. I was back at Montauk and I failed, and Preston Nichols was there. He's like, "What happened, Dad?" And, he was all pissed off at me. How'd they find you out? And but yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so yeah, this computer, it decides every aspect of life. It, like, basically tells you like when to do everything. And after this time mission, we would go in there. I would go in there and we would try to wake people up. I would literally go in there, portal in there, because there'd be this giant like chamber, and during shift changes, just a giant mass of human beings. I'm talking thousands of people, probably hundreds at least, would just boom, just barrel. That during the shift changes, it was like cattle, literally, boom, just through. And they could speak English. Like, even though they didn't talk, if they heard English, they could understand it. And they also could speak it. It was like in the Neuralink, it still used English as like a base of all the operation and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, English was still a concept to them. So they could speak English. And I remember I would portal in there and I'd wait for their shift change and I'd yell at them. I'd be like, you have no humanity. Like, where are you going? Why are you, you know what I mean? Like, when was the last time you thought something? Like, your own thought in your head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I try to like wake them up, but they were like robots. They would just kind of look at you weird and just walk right past you. And what's even crazier about it is they assumed that the computer, since everything was designated by the computer, if you were down there yelling at them about how they lost their humanity, they actually assumed that the computer was told you to do that. They assumed, so you must be telling the truth, maybe? Like, you know what I mean? It's such an oxymoron, but since everything was designated by the computer, they didn't have any concept of like crime. So like if you were doing something, they just assumed that like, oh, okay, like the computer told you to do that. Like I remember I would go on there and I would do graffiti, and that's where it comes from. In Simon and Garfunkel's in the Garfunkel song "The Sound of Silence," the words of the prophets were written on the subway walls and tenement halls. That's me and other time soldiers and other people that we woke up and activated during that time, like who were trying to break everybody out of the hypnosis of the computer. And basically like yeah, I would write stuff like the computer isn't your God, man is God, we created the computer. I'd write that on the wall, like man created the computer did not create man, like stuff like that, like to make them think. And like I said, when I would do that, they would literally walk right past me doing it and just think, oh, the computer must have made him do that. But it got weird. Where it got weird was there's this, so one day I was doing that and it was during a shift. I was graffitiing and it was during a shift change. And like I said, they normally just didn't care. They just walked right fucking past me. They didn't care at all. But then one day this like woman came out of the crowd. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? And they talk like they're deaf. She tried to talk with me in the Neuralink, but I didn't have one. So she had to use English. And she said, hey, what are you doing? But she sounded like she was deaf, like I said, because she's never talked before. Isn't that fucked up? She's never talked before, so she sounded kind of like she was deaf. That's what it sounded like. And I don't know how they would know to move their tongues and everything else. I don't know the answers for that, man. All I know is she could talk. And it was just like she wasn't good at it though. And yeah, I was just like, I'm trying to free your mind. Like you're enslaved. Like don't like you're totally enslaved. You're not a human being anymore. You're a computer. You're an organic computer. Like that's what this thing has done to you. Because they're on drugs and stuff too. Like THX 1138 shows that like they're all on drugs and it was illegal to not take your drugs and stuff. Like and she's like, you're lying. Like I remember like being mad at her for telling her this stuff. And it became this, she became an object of fascination for me. And I became an object of fascination for her. And then I think it might have been Preston's idea. I don't remember whose idea it was. But basically, they're like, what if you fucked her, dude? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't remember how it all happened, dude. I know this sounds crazy, but basically, this woman, one day, and this was in the middle of the tenement subway hall, but I know the shift changes, so there was no one there. Like, I don't know how it happened. I can't remember. I just remember I grabbed her and I started kissing her. And like, it wasn't like a rape or anything like that. It was like she'd never like experienced love before, and like she was exhilarated by it. I don't know. I think she kind of had feelings for me. It was like this saga. Like this, it took a long time for this to happen. It wasn't like the third time I saw her. It was like the 13th time I saw her or something. That I was trying to open her mind. I would like show up places and talk to her because she was the one who came out of like a crowd of people and talked to me. Out of millions of humans that were all brainwashed, she was the one who came out and talked to me. So I was fascinated by her. Like even though she was like, "Hey, don't do that," and she was telling me what not to do, most of them they didn't have the concept of anything being wrong. Because the computer just told you what right and wrong was. But she, without the computer telling her, was like, hey, this guy's doing something he's not supposed to be doing. He's writing on the wall. Like, so that, like, yeah, I was like fascinated by her. And we sort of fell in love, I guess, is the best way to explain it. And I fucked her one day, and I impregnated her. And what ended up happening is this was very much so intentional time mission shit. Like, because what ended up happening is she got called down to the computer one day. And the computer's like, hey, you're pregnant. And she's like, yeah, I know. And the computer was like, yeah, you got to have an abortion. And she's like, because, oh yeah, and I backtrack. There's not really any rules, but one of the rules is like the only rule basically is like, don't harm anyone. That's like the only rule they have. Just don't harm anyone. Don't kill anyone, don't harm anyone. That's like the only rule, literally, right? And she's like, that goes against the rule. He's like, no, it doesn't, because it's not born yet. She's like, no, it's in my, like, I feel it kicking. It's alive. Like, and the computer's like, no, you gotta kill it. And she's like, I'm not gonna, no. And she left the temple. And you have to keep in mind, there was no control system. There weren't police to come and take her away. Everybody just listened to the computer, dude. Like, so there was no like, oh, like, guards, seize her. Like, that concept didn't exist, dude. So like, she just was able to leave. And she went around and she told people, she's like, I'm pregnant and the computer wants to kill my baby. And people thought it was insane. People were like, what? The rule is not, don't harm anyone. They want to harm your baby? And they're like, the computer has a virus. If the computer's not sane anymore, it caused a civil war, dude. This woman getting pregnant caused like a civil war. And that's like the end of it. I don't know what happened. I don't think that future's coming. I think we're avoiding it right now. It's yet to be determined. But yeah, that's like a lot of my story. Like, thank you for letting me just rant, because that's a lot of, I mean, I covered Centurion, I covered the future, I covered Mod Talk. I mean, there's more still, but that's pretty good first show with you, I would think. I'm also, of course, willing to talk more and answer more questions and stuff, but
I think we covered quite a bit here. We've been going on for 2 hours now. That's pretty much the lengths of my longest episodes that I do. So
all right, well,
we can probably wrap this one up. Before we do, I would like for you to let the audience know, if anyone's out there interested in reaching out to you, where they can contact you, how they can get a hold of you.
people can find me on Facebook. I'm Arkheim Ra Wood. arkheimra@gmail.com. Although I will be honest with you, I'm not 100% amazing at responding to emails, because I actually have like 20 people messaging me like every day. I'm fairly popular already on the internet, so it's really hard to keep track of everybody that's trying to talk to me, but I do my best. I do consultations with people for $60. So if people want to talk to me, like get ahead of in line, that's really important. They feel like they really need to talk to me, you can do a Zoom call with me for $60. I try to do it for free to people, like I will, but it just might take me a long time to get to you, because there's so many people trying to talk to me. But then also, yeah, I have my YouTube channel, Disclosure Now. It's at Disclosure Known on YouTube, and it's just my YouTube channel is just exposing like the secret space programs. That's entirely what it's centered around. It's not centered around anything else. Exposing time corporations and secret space programs. So that's basically where you can find me and what I'm all about. Thanks for having me on the show, Brandon.
Yep, not a problem. Thanks for being on here tonight, and thanks for talking with me, and thanks for everyone out there listening. Good night.
Good night. Later.
And that's the show, everyone. I really hope you guys enjoyed the conversations. If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or go to the contact section of tinfoiltales.com. Just get your message to me. We'll get something scheduled for a future episode. And just remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey. And until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.
Tinfoil Tales in my headphones. Yeah, it's time to rock. Got a story about a cryptid creature. Let's take a walk. Bigfoot, dogman, they're out there in the dark. But the truth is out there like an alien spark. UFO sightings got the whole world shook. Conspiracies unfold like a story in a book. Media control, trying to keep us blind. Oh, before gonna use my own mind. In history, they don't want us to know the secrets they hide, the truth they won't show. Domain of society, they keep us in chains. But I'm standing tall, it's time to break the reins. control, trying to keep us blind. But I won't be fooled, gonna use my own mind. In history